Xiyue boasted too much in his past life, but was struck by lightning. After his death, he traveled to the world of cultivation that only existed in novels and obtained a sect simulator. Spending sect contribution points allows you to use the sect simulator once. After successful simulation, you can choose to modify entries, delete entries, extract entry items, and view entry character weaknesses keywords of the novel. Immortal Cultivation World. My Sect Simulator No Pop-ups, Immortal Cultivation World. My Sect Simulator TXT Complete Collection Download, Immortal Cultivation World. My Sect Simulator Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 1. 10-Year Simulated Sect of Chopping Firewood. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. 10-Year Simulated Sect of Chopping Firewood. Xiyue Prefecture, Xiyue Sect. The mountain behind the sect gate is evergreen and secluded, with lush trees and abundant spiritual energy. Senior sister, your move is like a pear blossom pressing over a crabapple. By the stream, the voice of a young girl came from afar, her face full of joy. The charming woman in white stopped dancing her sword, and her fairy-like aura fell from mid-air. Her footsteps stood firmly on the ground like dragonflies skimming water. A tree of pear blossoms pressing over crabapple. Junior sister, did you describe it incorrectly? The woman frowned slightly and a blush appeared on her cheeks. The girl revealed her pure white teeth and said, Junior brother said that's a compliment. After speaking, the girl reached out her plump and tender little hand, pointing towards the young man walking at the foot of the mountain carrying firewood in the distance. This catchy tone is exactly what the girl learned from the boy, who often praises herself with this word, which makes the girl very happy. Looking around, the young man was as thin as a stick, very green and astringent, perhaps it was because he worked too seriously that he ignored their words. The young man's name is Xiyue, and he is a disciple of the outside gate of Xiyue Sect's Chopstick Academy. After Xiyue returned to the chopping room, he continued chopping firewood. All the firewood was split in half, and then another axe fell down, turning the two halves into four, making it easier to fully burn and utilize. 2 hours later, Xiyue finished his meal and arrived at the familiar Qinglong Hall. The place where disciples of Xiyue Sect exchange contribution points. Even if Xiyue works hard every day chopping firewood, he can only earn 100 contribution points per year, which is a different story if he is an inner disciple. In fact, Xiyue does not belong to this world. He is a reborn person. He comes from Earth, and unlike most passionate rebirths, he didn't have as many flashy experiences in his past life. Just because he boasted, he was struck to death by lightning. After his death, he came to this world of cultivating immortals. For some reason, Xiyue was brought to the Xiyue sect. According to the leader, he has no spiritual roots and cannot cultivate immortals. Fortunately, the leader saw him as handsome and an orphan, so he was taken in as an external disciple in the Chopstick Academy. In addition, he also obtained a simulator. However, this simulator can only simulate around the bound sect and itself. Each time you need to consume 500 sect contribution points, you can use it once. After successful simulation, you can choose to modify entries, delete entries, extract entry items, view entry person information such arrived at a place without anyone and opened the simulator. Name: Xiyue, Binding Sect. Xiyue Sect, Sect Level. Junior Sword Sect, Sect Reputation. 10. Sect Territory. Xiyue Prefecture, your sect status. Disciple of the Chopping Firewood Academy, your sect contribution points. 1000/1000, tip. First use requires 1000 contribution points to activate the simulator, the conditions are met. Xiyue's hands trembled a bit. Rubbed my hands. After 10 years of chopping firewood, Xiyue Sect finally reached an exciting moment. Start simulating. Xiyue didn't hesitate. Change your life from now on. You were born in Changshu village, and because of your handsome appearance, you are often secretly loved by the chubby girls at the village entrance. Even the chubby girls have the intention of secretly dating you for life. 6 years old. During the Qingming festival, Changshu village was slaughtered by a sword-patterned cultivator, who didn't even let go of an old sow. You were saved by senior sister Xiyue of Qingyun's sect and escaped a disaster. As you didn't have a spiritual root, you could only become a disciple of the Chopstick Academy. 10 years old. You were not used to this world, silent, slow to chop firewood, and were beaten up by your fellow chubby classmates. You often hid in bed and cried, which was seen by senior sister Xiyue. 13 years old. You swore to become a cultivator and strive even harder. But because you worked too hard chopping firewood and finished 10 people's work, you were beaten by your fellow disciples hanging from a tree. 20 years old. The sect was invaded by evil cultivators, and all the young women were abducted. You decided to show off and chase after them, but were severely injured. 18 years old. You collapsed in a wheelchair and witnessed senior sister Xiyue being married by the enemy sect leader in exchange for the sect foundation. At the age of 20.9, your sect withered, and as a disciple, you also ended your brief life. The simulation is over. You can choose to modify the entry, delete the entry, extract the entry items, and view the entry character attributes. Nima, did she disappear at the age of 29? His senior sister Xiyue was also taken away. Su Che's inner voice is forcing me. When did you become so brave? Modify the entry. Su Che immediately decided to modify the entry. 17 years old. One day, while taking a walk in the sect, I picked up a small blue porcelain vase left by an immortal, absorbed a large amount of rich ancient immortal energy, and changed my constitution from being unable to cultivate immortality. Successfully modified entry. Modifying entry will change the next simulation result. Su Che breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. There was another simulation opportunity, and Su Che calmed down and decided to strike while the iron was hot and continue the simulation. You were born in Changshu village, and because of your handsome appearance, you are often secretly loved by the chubby girls at the village entrance. Even the chubby girls have the intention of secretly dating you for life. 6 years old. During the Qingming festival, Changshu village was slaughtered by sword-patterned cultivators, who didn't even let go of the old sow. You were saved by senior sister Xiyue of Qingyun's sect and escaped a disaster. Since you didn't have a spiritual root, you couldn't cultivate immortality and could only become a disciple of the Chopstick Academy. 10 years old. You were not used to this world, silent, slow to chop firewood, and were beaten up by your fellow chubby classmates. You often hid in bed and cried, which was seen by senior sister Xiyue. 13 years old. You swore to become a cultivator and strive even harder. But because you worked too hard chopping firewood and finished 10 people's work, you were jealous and beaten by your fellow disciples hanging from a tree. 17 years old. One day, while taking a walk in the sect, I found a small blue porcelain vase left by an immortal. I absorbed a large amount of rich ancient immortal energy from it and changed my constitution, which made me unable to cultivate immortality. Elder Qingmu Peak discovered your secret and took away the small blue porcelain vase from you. As a result, the Qingyun sect's blood flowed into a river, and you also died in the dispute. The simulation is over. You can choose to modify the entry, delete the entry, extract the entry items, and view the entry character attributes. Is it still so miserable? Su Che never expected that just because he modified the entry, the simulated result would change so much. It was better not to change it. Having learned from his past experiences, Su Che no longer dares to blindly modify entries. However, he thought for a moment and felt that the blue porcelain vase was the key to his journey into immortality, but it was not enough to be extracted. In the end, he decided to check the information of Elder Song from Qingmu Peak and earn more sect contribution points to gain more initiative in the event timeline. Name: Song Qiming. Identity: Elder of Qingyun sect and Master of Blood Sha sect. Realm: 3 layers of pill formation stage. Favorite impression of you? Personality. Naturally suspicious and addicted to killing. It's okay if you don't look. After checking the information of this usually respected elder song, Xuan neck caught a chill. End of this chapter. Chapter 2 Swallowing Immortal Pills. Life and Death Test. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Swallowing Immortal Pills. Life and Death Test is Elder Song, who usually has a scholarly demeanor, actually the head of the Blood Evil sect. Xuan, the Blood Sha sect, knows a little bit about this. Although he is an external disciple of Xiyue sect, he also comes into contact with some rumors on a daily basis. It is said that this Blood Sha sect is a sect that specializes in admitting evil cultivators and engages in all kinds of evil deeds in the territory of Xiyue Prefecture. White bones are exposed in the wilderness, 1,000 miles without rooster crowing. 100 people are left behind. The thought breaks a person's heart. But there are also rumors that this Blood Sha sect was actually besieged by the Xiyue sect 10 years ago. In a daze, Xuan seemed to have thought of something crucial. What is the reason why the head of the Blood Demon sect has been secretly hiding in the Xiyue sect? Is it also for the blue porcelain vase mentioned in the simulator entry? But he is well aware that there is no second person in Xiyue sect besides him who knows this secret now. Thinking of this, Xuan's mouth curved upwards. Not to mention, the feeling of catching someone else's little handle is satisfying. According to the simulation results, Elder Song has a beast-like heart, so it seems that we need to be more cautious of him in the future. Xuan murmured softly, becoming more alert to Elder Song. I am currently powerless, unable to compete with the leader of this Blood Sha sect, and I may also be silenced by Elder Song in the future. Thinking of this, Xuan clenched his fists tightly, his clear pupils seeming to be avenging Elder Song. Xuan, what's wrong with you today? You look curious and strange. Don't forget to give arsenic to those colleagues who bully you. Just then, a clear voice from a young man came from beside him. The young man's name is Li Xiaobai, about 17 years old, with a dignified demeanor. He was a disciple of the Chopstick Academy who entered the same period as Xuan, and they had a good relationship. How could it be? I just miss my family. Xuan shook her head. As long as you have nothing to do, as cultivators, we must have no desires in order to cultivate into a great way. Li Xiaobai patted Xuan's shoulder and comforted her. Xuan showed a bitter smile. In order to prevent his peers from seeing any abnormalities, Xuan chose to continue to work hard every day chopping firewood while earning some sect contribution points for the convenience of the next simulation. Only in the evening did Xuan leave the chopstick yard alone and secretly take a walk on various roads of the sect. In order to prevent encountering Elder Song, Xuan also specifically carried the axe from the firewood house on his body for self-defense. Just psychological comfort. The Immortal Cultivation sect is different, and even at night, inner disciples can be seen everywhere. Xuan didn't find any small porcelain bottles, instead he ate several waves of dog food for several nights in a row. Xuan had no intention of giving up, but remained as always. On this night, the moonlight was sparse and it was already very late. In the Xiyue sect, a man and a woman looked at each other, the air became hot, and they didn't know what to do next. Xuan sighed, it seemed like she couldn't take a good walk tonight. Just as he had not taken a few steps, his feet suddenly thumped, as if stepping on something. His heart is beating faster. Reached a feeling that had never been experienced before. Is it the small blue porcelain vase left by the Immortal? Quietly lifting his legs, there was a small blue porcelain vase under his feet. Such picked it up. The small blue porcelain vase is in my hand, and I feel happy inside. He stumbled back to the residence of the chopping firewood yard, but the door was tightly closed by him, the bell was also tied to the door by him, and anyone would make a noise. Xuan lay wearily on the wooden bed, leaning to one side, he took out the small blue porcelain vase. The small bottle presents a blue glaze color throughout, engraved with blue patterns, and even in the dark, it emits a faint blue light. Xiyue takes great care of this treasure. Opening the bottle, a small green pill suddenly appeared inside, emitting a tempting fragrance. Is this the elixir that Elder Song is desperately searching for? Xiyue's heart moved. Elder Song certainly cannot find a broken bottle, and the elixir inside is probably his true love. He poured out the pill and swallowed it without saying a word. It melts upon entry and has no taste at all. But as soon as Xiyue swallowed it, he felt a warm current spreading throughout his limbs and bones. My body seemed to be hollowed out, and my forehead was covered in dense beads of sweat. The next day, Xiyue woke up hard from hunger. Have I become a cultivator yet? It seems like there hasn't been much change either. Let's just leave it at that and have a meal before we talk. Arriving at the cafeteria with all the fuss, the cafeteria has long been looted. Kid, you came late today. Fortunately, I saved you some food, which should be enough for you to eat. The cafeteria lady was very enthusiastic and reserved. Xiyue looked in the direction of Ant's hand, and a bowl of delicious food suddenly appeared, with 2 big mantou on it. After finishing his meal, Xiyue planned to return to the chopping firewood yard and then carefully consider the changes in his body. However, as he walked onto the path of the sect, his attention was drawn to the densely packed group of fellow disciples in the distance. Gathering so many people, what happened? With doubts in mind, Xiyue arrived at the crowd. But it was discovered that a group of senior brothers were discussing something around a bulletin board. Due to the noise, they couldn't hear the details clearly, and most of them were talking nonsense. What is written on it? Xiyue scratched his head. Sorry, he is illiterate. As a weak force, he doesn't even recognize the characters in this world. Recently, he met a little girl who claimed to be his senior sister and decided to take the initiative to teach him how to read, but at the cost of calling her senior sister. As a positive energy youth, Xiyue politely declined Loli's 500th attempt. Think about it now, it's really a loss to have no culture. Xiao Bai, what is written on it? Xiyue leaned over to Li Xiaobai and immediately asked. Last night, a man and a woman died by the stone path of the sect. A man and a woman. Xiyue was surprised. Yeah. The killer is really cruel, he opened a big blood hole in them directly. Now those senior brothers in the sect are all searching for the killer. Upon hearing this news, Xiyue can be said to be on pins and needles. No matter how foolish he is, he knows what happened. Last night, the dog man and woman were obviously too flamboyant and had already been silenced. Who else can it be? Elder Song. The next goal won't be himself, will it? But upon closer reflection, Xiyue felt something was wrong last night. He didn't leave any footprints, even bringing his self-defense axe back to the chopping yard. Even if Elder Song had a clever plan, he wouldn't have found out that he had picked up the small bottle left by the Immortal, right? How about running away? Xiyue panicked. The other party was a cultivator, with countless thoughts. I even thought of leaving Qinyun's sect and embarking on my own path of cultivation. But upon closer reflection, he dispelled the idea that he couldn't run away. Qinyun's sect has shown kindness to him. If he leaves Qinyun's sect, he will definitely be persecuted by Elder Song. At that time, the entire Qinyun sect is very likely to be destroyed, unless he can kill Elder Song and turn the world around. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Accidental Income Under the Door. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Accidental Income Under the Door. Returning to the chopping firewood yard, Xiyue assumed that nothing had happened. He just wants to work hard to chop firewood and earn more contribution points, while putting aside the rest for now. As long as he earns contribution points, he will go to Qinglong Hall to exchange them in a timely manner. Everything will be safe and sound in the next few days. However, Xiyue is somewhat dissatisfied with the current situation. The contribution points earned each time are too few. completely insufficient for him to use the Sect Simulator. If this continues, it will take him at least 5 years to conduct the next Sect simulation. This is not good for him. I estimate he will have turned into a pile of bones by then. Arriving at Qinglong Hall, although he is currently an outsider disciple, he is also qualified to take on some sect tasks other than chopping firewood. The mission of the sect has 5 levels in total: white, black, cyan, blue, purple. The white and black sect tasks are specifically provided to external disciples. The higher the level of sect tasks, the more difficult they will be and the more contribution points they will receive. Su Che looked at the taskbar and saw that the little girl guarding the Qinglong Hall was caressing a white kitten. She knew that Su Che didn't recognize words, so she read it out to him: white sect task. Chop 10 bundles of firewood and reward 1 sect contribution point, white sect task. Carry 10 buckets of water and obtain 1 sect contribution point. In the past, Su Che usually chose the white chopping firewood sect mission, which was simple and stable, and no one had yet competed with him. Looking up, Su Che turned her gaze for the first time to those black sect missions. Black sect task. Eliminate the lawless maniac Zhang San in Daoxiang village and reward 20 sect contribution points. Black sect task. Copy the 6 Harmony Heart Sutra 20 times for inner disciples and reward them with 30 sect contribution points. It is obviously unrealistic to eliminate the lawless maniac Zhang San using his own chopping axe. Su Che chose to copy the 6 Harmonies Heart Sutra. Junior brother, you've really had a keen eye lately. The girl's name is Lu Menger, and she joked. It is not surprising that the task of inner disciples copying the Heart Sutra appears here. If inner disciples make mistakes, they will be punished for copying the Heart Sutra, and some inner disciples who value time will choose to post these small matters on the sect's taskbar and pay their contributions as compensation. Their sect is also turning a blind eye. After receiving the sect task of copying, Su Che did not give up and also received the task of chopping firewood. Returning to the chopping firewood yard, Su Chijia quickly finished chopping firewood and began copying the 6 Harmonies Heart Sutra. He has no way of knowing what is recorded above, and it's not his business anyway. But early the next morning, the entire chopping yard exploded. General Han summoned all the outer disciples of the Chopstick Academy, and before Su Che woke up, he was pulled by Li Xiaobai. What happened? Su Che's eyes were a bit drowsy. He fought too late last night and now his body is completely unable to withstand it. Li Xiaobai smiled and said, "Don't you know yet? Last night, the manager revealed that a lucky star will visit our chopping yard this morning." Upon hearing this, Su Che was still puzzled in her heart. But soon he saw an unusual scene in the distance. I saw General Han, who used to be arrogant, nodding and bowing to a scholar wearing a white robe and a white Confucian scarf. The scholar's extraordinary demeanor is already telling everyone about his extraordinary qualities. "You brats, this is Elder Song. Hurry up and kneel down." Han, the general manager, seemed to have thought of something and turned to scold the outer disciples behind him. Upon hearing this, the faces of the disciples from the outer sect were full of excitement, as if they had seen a fairy and knelt down one after another. "I believe you have also heard of it. This time, Elder, I am mainly looking for a flexible external disciple to guard the spirit garden." He looked at the external disciples in front of him and immediately said seriously, "Of course, in return, he will become Elder I's named disciple." As soon as he finished speaking, all the external disciples present were boiling. "I have long heard that Elder Song of Qingmu's sect has a different style from the other elders, but I didn't expect to take notice of these external disciples. This is a great opportunity. Even if these disciples without spiritual roots become named disciples of Elder Song, their future status will be more promising than chopping firewood and carrying water in this chopping yard." Su Che has no interest. Does he know the true identity of Elder Song? Becoming a disciple of the other party is no different from dying. Elder Song looked at many external disciples present and shook his head, feeling somewhat disappointed. Obviously, he had not found a suitable candidate. Quickly, he cast his deep gaze in one direction of the crowd. And that direction is exactly where Xiyue is. Xiyue yawned, he was just too tired. I felt my clothes being pulled by Li Xiaobai, which made me realize. He is extremely inconspicuous in the crowd, disheveled, making it impossible for him to attract attention. Elder Song finally set his gaze on Xiyue, and a hint of sharpness flashed in his eyes that was difficult for ordinary people to find. Unexpectedly, there is also a disciple among the outer disciples who has spiritual roots inside his body. Although his aptitude is a bit inferior, it is also rare. Elder Song murmured to himself and asked Xiyue, "Are you willing to be my disciple?" Upon hearing this, Xiyue immediately panicked. Isn't it? There wouldn't be such a coincidence in the world, would there? This hypocrite actually wants to take himself as his disciple, and now he has really fallen into a den of thieves. At one moment, he really wanted to find an underground hole to drill into. Why don't you want to be my named disciple? Elder Song seemed to see Xiyue's helplessness. Xiyue shook his head like a tambourine and said, "Master, I'm so willing." As soon as he finished speaking, Xiyue knelt directly in front of Elder Song, kowtowing incessantly, and tears of gratitude flowed in his eyes. He can't say he doesn't want to, just stop pretending, you old man. I know better than anyone what you did. Elder Song nodded with satisfaction, get up. I'll take you to Qingmu Peak, come with me. Without looking at the other disciples present, he left towards the distance. Surrounded by envy and astonishment. How could Xiyue, who is usually submissive, have a spiritual root? This indicates that Xiyue's future is no longer on the same level as theirs. But Xiyue couldn't be happy in her heart. If he were to be taken in by other elders, his path to cultivating immortality would be smooth sailing, but the true identity of this Song elder is the head of the Blood Evil sect. There are many questions buried in his heart. Could it be that Elder Song found himself picking up his small porcelain vase and intentionally came to the Chopstick Academy to test himself? Or is it all just a coincidence? Amidst countless thoughts, Xiyue had already been taken to a flying sword by Elder Song. In addition to the sect leader, Qingyun sect also has 4 elders who practice on 4 peaks with extremely abundant spiritual energy. Being recognized by any elder is a great creation. And Elder Song was the only elder who had not received any disciples, and at this moment, the direction of the flying sword was the towering Qingmu Peak. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The possibility of building foundations for downhill replacement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The possibility of building foundations for downhill replacement Qingmu Peak. White clouds envelop, quiet as usual. The peak is 800 zhang high, with beautiful mountain ranges, intertwined with ancient vines, and winding paths leading to seclusion. The entire mountain peak is nestled against a series of lakes, which reflect the mountains as if quietly overlooking the earth. In the next half-month, it seems that Song Qiming did not intend to waste time on Xiyue, such. Before becoming a disciple of the Chopstick Academy, he was just an ordinary person. Just like normal men, they drool in their dreams when it comes to beautiful women. It is precisely because of this that he is full of expectations for cultivating immortality. He wants to cultivate immortality and achieve longevity, so that he may be able to get closer to his senior sister Xiyue. After a few days, Xiyue did not show any horse feet. As for the secret to guarding the spiritual field that Song Qiming taught him, Xiyue easily mastered it. During this period, he also clarified the cultivation realm system of this world, refining qi, building foundation, forming pills, integrating spirit, refining void, crossing calamity, immortal unity, immortal emperor. As for Xiyue, it is currently in the lowest stage of gas refining. In addition, under the guidance of Song Qiming, Xiyue made rapid progress in his cultivation. The master and apprentice entered their honeymoon period. Based on observations over the past few days, Xiyue was very confident that the other party had not discovered the secret of finding the small blue porcelain bottle. This is good news for Xiyue. In the morning, Xiyue observed the Lingtian medicinal herbs as usual. According to Song Qiming's words, not all spiritual medicines can become millennium and century-old spiritual medicines. Only those medicines with extremely excellent embryos can continuously absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth for hundreds of years, and the same goes for cultivators. There are countless cultivators, but very few can achieve positive results. Regarding this, Xiyue seemed to have a vague understanding. He extended his dry hand and recorded the growth and changes of the spiritual medicine on rice paper, as well as the depth of absorbing spiritual energy. But when he turned around, he was startled. I don't know when Song Qiming appeared several meters behind him, squinting at him. That gaze was very strange, making it hard to see through. Master Xiyue was confused. Song Qiming paused on Xiyue's body, and suddenly his gaze fell on Xiyue's arms, frowning. Are you keeping something from me? Such regained his senses and immediately lowered his head to look into his arms, bulging and bulging, everything is about to come out. Before Xiyue could explain anything, Song Qiming had already come to him. I saw him with a gloomy face, reaching out his hand and grabbing towards Xiyue's arms. Upon seeing this, Xiyue's forehead was already covered in dense drops of sweat, and her heart was lifted to her throat. Did Song Qiming discover something? Are we going to kill someone and silence them? Before he could react in any way, Xiyue's clothes had already burst open. Dang! Something collided with the soil and made an incredibly dull sound. Xiyue was scared out of his wits and quickly knelt on the ground. Master, I don't know that carrying an axe is not allowed in the medicine garden. However, I have been following this axe with me for some years, and I am extremely reluctant, so I have been carrying it all along. I saw a bright axe falling out of Xiyue's body. Song Qiming's face flashed with a hint of surprise that ordinary people could not detect, and soon it disappeared completely. He turned around and turned his back to Xiyue. I will leave the sect and go out for a trip. You will temporarily take care of this spiritual field, and you can exchange those inferior spiritual medicines for some pills. After saying that, he left the medicine garden regardless of whether Xiyue agreed or not. Xiyue finally breathed a long sigh of relief after Song Qiming's figure disappeared without a trace. Opening his hand, a large amount of sweat beads sprouted from his palm, which was unusually cold. He swallowed his saliva and was almost scared to death by the other party just now. Is this the difference between ordinary people and cultivators? He exhaled and groped around, finally taking out the small blue porcelain bottle. In fact, Xiyue had long wanted to throw away this small blue porcelain bottle, otherwise putting such a hot potato on him would sooner or later harm himself, but Xiyue did not do that. It's not that he's stupid, it's just that this small porcelain vase is too mysterious. Last time, he clearly remembered that there was only one elixir inside the small porcelain bottle, but in this short time, another elixir filled with majestic aura unexpectedly appeared inside. However, the elixir this time was slightly different from the one he swallowed in his stomach last time, to the point where Xiyue dared not take it at all. Insert the small porcelain bottle into the brocade pouch and carefully place it in your pocket. Only by confirming that everything is correct can we rest assured. After all, the most dangerous place is the safest place. Since Song Qiming already had doubts, he couldn't reveal himself any further. Inside the wooden house, the young man began to vomit like a fish opening its mouth. All the spiritual energy entered his body. If we continue like this, I reckon I'll be able to build the foundation soon, right? Xiyue opened her eyes, feeling happy inside. The next step is to build the foundation. While Song Qiming is not at Qingmu Peak, Xiyue opened the simulator. Sect attributes have emerged prominently. Name: Xiyue, Binding Sect. Qingyin Sect, Sect Level. Junior Sword Sect, Sect Reputation. 10, Sect Territory. Qingyun Prefecture, your sect status. A named disciple of Song Qiming. Your sect contribution points. 100/infinity, tip. Each use of the Sect Simulator consumes 500 contribution points. Pack up and leave Qingmu Peak. This is Su Che's first time descending the mountain. Upon arriving at Qinglong Hall, a playful face caught the eye. Lu Menjie stood on a stool as tall as her body, with a surprised expression on her face. Su Che scratched his head, feeling somewhat embarrassed. He randomly took out a large amount of spiritual medicine again, intending to exchange it for the foundation building pill. With so many elixirs, even Lu Menjie was somewhat surprised. However, the foundation building pill had already been fully redeemed, which left Su Che somewhat disappointed. Just as Su Che was about to collect some sect tasks and leave, a Miaoling woman's voice suddenly came from a distance. Perhaps I have the foundation building pill that my junior brother needs. Can you exchange it with me? This voice is both familiar and unfamiliar to Su Che. Turning around, senior sister Xiyue, who had been missing for several days, looked at him with a smile on her face. This smile was like an arrow, shooting into his heart. Did senior sister Xiyue actually take the initiative to greet him? Although Su Che admires senior sister Xiyue very much, she hasn't reached the point of being a licking dog. Does senior sister really have the foundation building pill? Su Che is still most concerned about the foundation building pill at the moment. Perhaps the elixir's efficacy was too strong, and Su Che had already reached the 10th level of the refining stage in just a few days, falling into a bottleneck. To break through, one must use pills to assist, among which the foundation building pill is second to none. But the foundation pill is extremely precious, although there are also exchanges within the sect, but the long cycle and small quantity lead to less meat and more wolves. At this moment, senior sister Xiyue's words were like a spring rain permeating his heart. Senior sister Xiyue nodded to Su Che with utmost tenderness. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Stealing the Heart Sutra to build a foundation and achieve great success. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Stealing the Heart Sutra to build a foundation and achieve great success. Sister Xiyue's appearance is unparalleled in the entire Qingyun sect. She is the dream lover of many male disciples of Qingyun sect. In Su Che's heart, the most beautiful figure in the entire Qingyun sect is the master of Xiyue. Su Che was once fortunate enough to witness, he was simply a fairy. My master taught me some alchemy skills a while ago, and I happened to refine a furnace of foundation building pills. If you need it, you can give it to me as a gift. The sound of water spirit made Su Che's bones tingle. Su Che nodded and said, "That's really great." After that, he handed the spiritual medicine on his body to Xiyue's hand. Taking the elixir from Su Che's hand, Sister Xiyue's face showed a hint of amazement. She had long heard that Elder Song had great expertise in cultivating spiritual medicines, but she never expected to cultivate such high-quality spiritual medicines. After changing the spiritual medicine, Su Che planned to leave and return to Qingmu Peak to continue his cultivation. But as soon as he left Qinglong Hall, he met a group of people. The leading young man's name is Lin Yu, a disciple of Tianjiao from the inner sect, and he was in the period of building the foundation. Warn him not to get too close to senior sister Xiyue, otherwise he will look good next time. This person is drooling over senior sister Xiyue and really wants to become a double cultivation partner with her, but has been repeatedly rejected. It is obvious that the other party misunderstood themselves. Su Che didn't take it to heart and shrugged before returning to Qingmu Peak. The grass and trees around the small wooden house are lively, and birds and insects are chirping. What's completely different from the outside is inside the wooden house. The wood attribute spiritual energy around is extremely restless and uncontrollable. Senior sister Xiyue gave him 3 foundation building pills. Su Che has already used one. But the foundation construction failed. The wood attribute spiritual energy around gradually dissipated and collapsed. Xiyue smiled bitterly in her heart. It seems that building this foundation is not as simple as imagined. But Xiyue did not give up. He swallowed another foundation pill and planned to continue building the foundation. Once again failed reasonably. Unexpectedly. At present, it seems that in order to break through, one must cultivate this 6 Harmonies Heart Classic to the 2nd level. Speaking, Xiyue took out the 6 Harmonies Heart Sutra and began to work hard to comprehend and cultivate it. Although this 6 Harmony Heart Classic only has 2 layers, it can harmonize the spiritual energy in the body. 3 days later, a faint blue light emanated from the small wooden house from the inside out. Xiyue, kneeling cross-legged on the wooden bed, was overjoyed. He never expected that this time it would be so smooth. Xiyue successfully broke through from the realm of refining qi to the realm of building foundation. Slowly opening his hands, he wrapped the incense burner placed on the table in the distance with spiritual energy. Stepping into the realm of foundation construction so easily, Xiyue couldn't help feeling a little excited inside. But he is not satisfied yet. Song Qiming has only temporarily left Qingmu Peak, he needs more powerful martial arts to do so. Returning to Qinglong Hall, Xiyue plans to take on some tasks. Unexpectedly, another inner disciple was punished by the sect and had to copy the phantom steps 1,000 times. The reward contribution point was even reduced to 500 points. It's not surprising that no one picked it up. After all, although the disciples of the outer sect have a lot of time, most of them are similar to Xiyue and do not recognize characters. Although Xiyue could choose to go to the library to choose his martial arts, but there is no reward for contribution points in the martial arts of the library. Without hesitation, Xiyue chose to take on the mission of this sect. 500 contribution points, this guy is really rich and powerful. Feeling secretly delighted, Xiyue returned to Qingmu Peak with phantom steps. The copying technique is not difficult for him at all. Especially he is well aware that it is better to constantly copy and comprehend the cultivation techniques with one's heart, because in this process, the meaning that the cultivation method wants to express is constantly being stripped away. Xiyue copied phantom steps over and over again. This time is different from the previous 6 Harmonies Heart Sutra. The complete set of footwork in phantom step is flawless. This is undoubtedly not good news for Xiyue. After copying for 2 whole days, Xiyue finished copying phantom steps 1,000 times at an unimaginable speed. When copying, it did not affect Xiyue's comprehension of this technique at all. Although phantom step is a low-level footwork, it has 3 layers. But this footwork also has its uniqueness. According to the description, once cultivated to a divine level, the speed of reaction can leave a shadow in the distance, making the opponent unable to defend and unable to see it at all. Xiyue did not show any neglect. In just 2 days, he has reached the 2nd level of cultivation. However, it is not so easy to cultivate to the 3rd level, and one must be in a crisis to more easily unleash one's artistic conception. Although unable to reach the 3rd level, Xiyue is now able to achieve extremely fast speed with this phantom step. Returning to Qinglong Hall, Xiyue submitted the copied technique. 500 contribution points will also be credited immediately. You can use the Sect Simulator again. Arriving at an undisturbed place, Xiyue looked around and finally opened the simulator. Name: Xiyue, Binding Sect. Qingyun Sect, Sect Level. Junior Sword Sect, Sect Reputation. 10, Sect Territory. Qingyun Prefecture, your sect status. A named disciple of Song Qiming. Your sect contribution points. 600/1000, using simulated sections. You were born in Changshu village, and because of your handsome appearance, you are often secretly loved by the chubby girls at the village entrance. Even the chubby girls have the intention of secretly dating you for life. 6 years old. During the Qingming festival, Changshu village was slaughtered by sword-pattern cultivators, who didn't even let go of the old sow. You were saved by senior sister Xiyue of Qingyun sect and escaped a disaster. Since you didn't have a spiritual root, you couldn't cultivate immortality and could only become a disciple of the Chopstick Academy. 10 years old. You were not used to this world, silent, slow to chop firewood, and were beaten up by your fellow chubby classmates. You often hid in bed and cried, which was seen by senior sister Xiyue. 13 years old. You swore to become a cultivator and strive even harder. But because you worked too hard chopping firewood and finished 10 people's work, you were jealous and beaten by your fellow disciples hanging from a tree. 17 years old. One day, while taking a walk in the sect, I found a small blue porcelain vase left by an immortal. I absorbed a large amount of rich ancient immortal energy from it and changed my constitution, which made me unable to cultivate immortality. You have successfully built your foundation and gained fame, becoming the envy of fellow disciples of Qingyun's sect. People are talking about you behind your back. You have made rapid progress in your cultivation, but due to getting too close to senior sister Xiyue, you were warned by Lin Yu for the second time. You were deeply loved by senior sister Lu Menjie because of your charm. 18 years old. Elder King Yufeng discovered your secret and took away the small blue porcelain vase from you. Your limbs were torn off and you became a useless person. The simulation is over. You can choose to modify the entry, delete the entry, extract the entry items, and view the entry character attributes. After reading the entry, Su Che's nose immediately became sore. Very meow. I work hard every day to observe the elixir for you, exhausted to the death. In the end, I still don't want to let myself go, right? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Amazing Jade Xian Fairy in the Palace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Amazing Jade Xian Fairy in the Palace. Name: Lin Yu. Identity: Qingyun Tianjiao disciple, residual evil of the demon path, realm. 7 floors during the foundation construction period. Favorite impression of you? Personality: enduring humiliation and repaying grievances. Weakness: not hitting women. Su Che looked at the entry that only she could see. Her head was a bit big, but she was quite stunned. What is the situation with Qingyun sect? Surprisingly turned into a den of thieves. It's okay for a righteous cultivator to infiltrate a blood evil sect leader, but there is still a hidden evil spirit in the sect. Su Che analyzed loneliness. This weakness is also too impeccable. Not hitting women is useless. He is not a woman. After a few days, Su Che found that his realm had been stagnant since entering the construction period. Although he practiced crazily, the effect was minimal. Obviously, the 6 Harmonies Heart Sutra has no effect on him. He lay on the treetops of Qingmu Peak, the sunlight shining through the leaves on his face, making his heart a little clear. Su Che is very clear, this won't work. His hypocritical master will not let himself go when he returns to Qingmu Peak. Either cultivate, constantly become stronger, and then counterattack the opponent. Either wait for Song Qiming to return to Qingmu Peak and kill himself. Su Che was extremely angry at the thought of dying in the hands of Song Qiming. Arriving at Qinglong Hall again, Su Che continued to take on the task of snowball rolling. Before this, he first arrived at the sound column of Zongmen Square. Similar to a notice board, it updates the latest news about the sect. Su Che read it for a while, holding her chin in both hands. Sure enough, the cruel murderer was still not caught. This matter is getting worse and worse, and the elder is willing to use soul-probing techniques, but there is still no further action. Song Qiming, cunning and cunning, how could he be so easily discovered? Su Che shook his head and shrugged, then flew away. However, his identity was quite noteworthy along the way, and his disciples who had just appeared in the Duoniman sect all cast a friendly glance at him. Senior brother, junior brother Wang Ergu, if there is any place where you can use junior brother, just speak up. Such wanted to leave the crowd, but someone behind him still called out to him. He is a bit awkward. It's not an exaggeration for Wang Ergu to be his father, but he still calls him senior brother with an iron face. Xiyue also wants to keep a low profile. But this realm is like putting a pumpkin on your head, and you can't keep a low profile. In fact, Xiyue had heard of it for a long time that in the realm of cultivation, he would not classify hierarchy based on age, but judge a person's status based on their realm. This is also the reason why Lu Menjie had always wanted to call herself his sister before. Xiyue humbly evaded the past. Human wisdom is always necessary, and Xiyue finally arrived at the Qinglong Hall after several rounds of tugging with his junior brothers along the way. He heard that Qinglong Hall updates its cost-effective sect tasks every 2 weeks, and today is the day of the update, so he doesn't want to miss it. And when Lu Menjie saw Xiyue, she seemed to have met her eyes, and the little white cat was also thrown aside by her. Although I am handsome, as is well known, you don't have to stare at me, do you? Xiyue cursed inwardly. However, this scene has also been certified. The events simulated by the simulator are closely related to reality. However, Xiyue was also very speechless. He didn't have much interaction with Lu Menjie on a daily basis, but why did the other party entangle themselves? Xiyue shook his head, feeling like he was being adopted by a child. Dodged the cute gaze of the other person, Xiyue's eyes fell on the taskbar. The sect tasks are white, black, cyan, blue, and purple. White and black were skipped by Xiyue directly, and this time he turned his gaze directly to tasks above blue. Qingsa sect task. Eliminate Zhang San, an extraterrestrial fanatic, in Daoxiang village and reward 500 sect contribution points to form a team. Blue sect mission. Participate in the demon slaying battle and reward 500 sect contribution points. Blue sect task. Help Fairy Xuan find a 300-year-old spiritual medicine and reward 1000 sect contribution points. Purple sect task. Capturing the killer of sect disciples, optional kill, reward 2000 sect contribution points. Xiyue looked at Lu Menjie and smiled. Just choose the second and third ones. Thank you, senior sister. He doesn't want to get too close to Lu Menjie, the relationship still needs to be clarified. Upon hearing this, Lu Menjie was startled. Although she is known as a genius and broke through the foundation building period within a few years, she is slightly inferior to Xiyue. At this moment, Xiyue called her senior sister, and she felt somewhat disappointed in her heart. Alright. Alright. You idiot, you don't love anyone anymore, you scumbag. Lu Menjie muttered angrily. She reached out her pink little hand and took Xiyue's disciple Yufu. A faint light flickered, and the 2 tasks on the taskbar instantly became dull and colorless. Xiyue took the disciple's Jade talisman and was very speechless. When did he love each other? At most, Lu Menjie is just a little sister. Feeling unwell, Xiyue hurriedly slipped away with great luck. Returning to Qingmu Peak, Xiyue arrived at the Lingyao Garden. There are only 5 spiritual medicines from 300 years old in the spiritual medicine garden. Even though Xiyue searched through the spiritual medicine garden, he couldn't find the eliminated spiritual medicine. Squatting in front of the spiritual medicine garden, Xiyue looked around from side to side. Reaching out his hand, without hesitation, he pulled out a high-quality spiritual medicine. Then Xiyue left Qingmu Peak without looking back and headed towards the bottom of the peak. This time he took on 2 sect missions, 1 blue and 1 blue. It just shocked him. Last time, it was a black-level mission to eradicate evil in Daohua village. I have now been promoted to the blue sect mission. This also reflects that after half a month, Zhang San had a significant impact and had to be removed. Before that, Xiyue planned to visit Yuqing Peak and deliver the 300-year-old spiritual medicine collected from her to Fairy Xuan. Fairy Xuan is the master of senior sister Xiyue. A few days without seeing her, Xiyue's heart was itching. It happened that she also wanted to take this opportunity to meet senior sister Xiyue. Not long after, he arrived at Yuqing Peak, and Xiyue was quickly recommended to Fairy Xuan. However, Today senior sister Xiyue is not at Yuqing Peak. Inside the Suqing Palace. Fairy Xuan stared at Su Che in surprise, and the top-grade spiritual medicine of 300 years was clearly in her pair of bright white jade hands. Coincidentally, Su Che also greedily stared at Fairy Xuan. The two of them looked at each other, as if they were communicating with each other through their eyes, as if they were still in the bloom of yesterday and the remnants of today. Xuan Fairy, in Su Che's eyes, her appearance was as beautiful as a heavenly fairy, and the same was true throughout the entire sect. I saw her slender figure full and graceful, with light steps and a rustling outfit. She was wearing a white low-cut long skirt and a silk-woven white veil, tied with a white belt. Her black hair was tied in a flowing cloud bun, with several pearl flowers inserted between the buns. A pearl hung in front of her forehead, her jade-like skin was crimson, and her moon eyebrows and starry eyes were cold and gorgeous. It could be said that she was pure and pure, making people dare not have any thoughts of her. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Extralegal Madmen in Daoxiang Village. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Extralegal Madmen in Daoxiang Village. Leaving the Yuqing Palace, the contribution points of 1,000 sects quickly arrived. However, Su Che couldn't let go in her heart, and her itch was unbearable. His mind still retained the beautiful silhouette of Fairy Xuan. Su Che is not a fairy, and who doesn't have any emotions and desires yet. Combined with his fiery spirit, he had many indescribable fantasies. Daoxiang Village. Due to the rich water system and abundant corn around the village, it is known for its fragrant rice flowers that float for 10 miles with a smile. The village is lined with long rows of arable land. One gray field after another. Between the fields and nurseries is a mesh-like path, on which pear and plum trees grow. The night in the village is quiet and spacious. Occasionally, the faint footsteps and vague discussions on the road caused neighboring dogs to bark in unison. The barking of dogs rippled over the village. Su Che moved into the home of a grandmother-in-law who almost treated him as his grandson. The recent Daoxiang village has been turbulent, and outsiders are even more afraid to avoid it. All of this has to start with that maniac named Zhang San. He was originally a bachelor from Daoxiang village, but for some reason, after leaving Daoxiang village for half a year, Zhang San actually killed his childhood sweetheart when he returned. That lifeless appearance was a tragedy, with a large blood hole appearing on the entire stomach, which was shocking. At first, the villagers were extremely angry at his actions and attacked him in groups. But who would have thought that this image was possessed by a demon? 3 strong men followed the village chief to catch him, only to kill 2 of them, and the remaining one and the village chief fled in disappointment. This matter quickly spread throughout Daoxiang village. Zhang San did not escape as a result, but instead hid somewhere in Daoxiang village. Every once in a while, someone's chicken is stolen and eaten by him. The incident of injuring villagers has occurred repeatedly. Blood hole. After listening to Grandma Sun's account of the accident, Su Che felt lost in thought. Isn't it really Zhang San who killed Qin Qian? Su Che propped his chin. Isn't there really such a coincidence? He thought of the couple who died tragically in the Qingyun sect before. Is it really my own master who killed it? Su Che had a bad idea in her heart. But the most important thing now is to find this Zhang San. Grandmother saw that Su Che was dressed elegantly, thinking that Su Che was from the city and couldn't bear to be wronged. She cooked the last 2 eggs in her family into a bowl for Su Che. Su Che was deeply moved. He also had a grandmother who had passed away since he was a child. This warmth moved Su Che. After finishing the noodles, Su Che sat cross-legged on the wooden bed and meditated. Name: Su Che, Binding Sect. Qingyun Sect, Sect Level. Junior Sword Sect, Sect Reputation. 8. Sect Territory. Qingyun Prefecture, your sect status. A named disciple of Song Qiming. Your sect's contribution points. 1100/infinity, using a simulation sect. Su Che plans to use a simulator before going to bed to simulate the following plot direction. You were born in Changshu village, and because of your handsome appearance, you are often secretly loved by the chubby girls at the village entrance. Even the chubby girls have the intention of secretly dating you for life. 6 years old. During the Qingming festival, Changshu village was slaughtered by sword-pattern cultivators, who didn't even let go of the old Sao. You were saved by senior sister Xiyue of Qingyun's sect and escaped a disaster. Since you didn't have a spiritual root, you couldn't cultivate immortality and could only become a disciple of the Chopstick Academy. 10 years old. You were not used to this world, silent, slow to chop firewood, and were beaten up by your fellow chubby classmates. You often hid in bed and cried, which was seen by senior sister Xiyue. 13 years old. You swore to become a cultivator and strive even harder. But because you worked too hard chopping firewood and finished 10 people's work, you were jealous and beaten by your fellow disciples hanging from a tree. 17 years old. One day, while taking a walk in the sect, I found a small blue porcelain vase left by an immortal. I absorbed a large amount of rich ancient immortal energy from it and changed my constitution, which made me unable to cultivate immortality. You have successfully built your foundation and gained fame, becoming the envy of fellow disciples of Qingyun's sect. In order to complete the sect mission, you come to Daoxiang village to search for the whereabouts of Zhang San. You have found the whereabouts of Zhang San, and after several fights, you have been seriously injured and discovered the undisclosed secret behind Zhang San. You fled Daoxiang village with your severely injured body, and in order to return to your sect, you decided to take a shortcut. On the way back to Qingyun's sect, he was stabbed to death by Zhang San with a pig knife, ending his miserable life. The simulation is over. You can choose to modify the entry, delete the entry, extract the entry items, and view the entry character attributes. After reading the clear entries displayed by the simulator, Su Che scratched her head in confusion. Is this simulator intentionally causing trouble? Is his life frozen at the age of 17? Check the information of Zhang San's character, Su Che said. Name. Zhang San, identity. Villager of Daoxiang village, realm. 7 layers of gas refining period, favorite impression of you. Currently unavailable, personality. Promising and infatuated. Weakness. Poor expression ability. The next morning, Su Che left Grandma's son's house and promised to come back to see her. As soon as I left, a frightened sound came from a distance. Su Che was surprised. Running towards the sound, a large number of people were already gathered in the distance. They gathered together, and among the crowd was a middle-aged man. I'm not the killer, I'm not the killer. The person's mouth was covered in blood stains, but he was still struggling to defend himself. Zhang San, you are the murderer. Even if you killed Qin Qian, my brother died because of you, you beast. Kill him, and now the village chief is still lying in bed. The emotions of the villagers are very unstable. Su Che looked at Zhang San, who was known as a lawless maniac, and his mouth curved upwards. But at this moment, Zhang San suddenly pushed away the villagers and ran away. Upon seeing this, Su Che quickly followed up. But after following the other party into a forest, they lost the lawless maniac Zhang San. Su Che is speechless. Shoo! But just as he was planning to go back, a sudden chill came from behind. He was taken aback and felt something was wrong. He immediately applied oil to the soles of his feet and ran away. The phantom step vividly portrayed his body movements. Da-da-da. It wasn't until Su Che stood firm that he could see clearly. A thick and sturdy tree in the distance is already covered with dense poisonous needles. At the same time as feeling relieved in my heart, I also felt a little more wary of this lawless maniac Zhang San. You are all bullying me. When I was in Daoxiang village, you bullied me and looked down on me. Now that you have found cultivators to exterminate me, I will not let you go again. A cold light flashed in Zhang San's eyes as he walked step by step toward Su Che. Su Che understood that it was probably the legendary killing intent. Damn it! He cursed incessantly in his heart. This guy clearly has a lower realm than him. Is it difficult for him to die in the hands of the cultivator on the 7th floor of this limited qi refining period? End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Refining Guyu Fu Jing Je Sword Technique. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Refining Guyu Fu Jing Je Sword Technique. Su Che became a monk halfway through and was naturally defeated by Zhang San, 3 down, 5 out, 2 out of 3, severely injured by Zhang San. In a panic, I had to temporarily avoid the sharp edge, leaving the forest, avoiding the narrow path. I chose a main road and fled in the wilderness. The distance is getting closer, and a cold wind is constantly approaching. 3 meters, 2 meters, and soon the distance between the two was close to 1 meter. He opened his fierce gaze to kill Su Che. But at this critical moment, Su Che suddenly turned around. This scene caught the lawless maniac Zhang San off guard. He wants to twist his body to change his walking position, but Su Che's speed was too fast for him to take any action. In an instant, he had already arrived at his doorstep. At some point, Su Che had an extra axe in his hand and suddenly slashed at the head of an outsider. Puff! The sound of stones rolling still lingered in Su Che's mind for a long time. He let out a long breath. This is Su Che's first time killing someone, and his heart cannot be calmed for a long time. But in the world of cultivation, it's like the law of the jungle, only the strong can live freely in this world. Of course, one can also choose to be an ordinary person. In that case, even cultivators will not pay any extra attention, but Su Che's goal is to preach and achieve immortality. Zhang San's death did not bring too long emotional fluctuations to Su Che. Playing a prank on the lawless maniac Zhang San, he quickly took out 3 things. Su Che looked at the black and red jade talisman in his hand with a surprised expression and said, he is actually a disciple of the Gu cult. Gu refining sect. Su Che has heard of it. There are many cultivation sects outside Qinyun Prefecture, and the Gu refining sect mainly cultivates magic Gu, which is extremely cruel and listed as a demon sect by the cultivation sections. In recent years, the Gu refining sect has annexed some of the immortal cultivation sects, indirectly strengthening. Every year, Qinyun sect sends disciples to join forces with other sects to deal with the Gu refining sect. Putting away the jade talisman, Su Che turned her gaze to something else, which was a love letter written to Qin Qian and his experience in the Gu refining sect. The content was too cheesy, and Su Che didn't dare to read it. Based on the above content, it can be inferred that this guy secretly escaped from the Gu refining sect on the day agreed upon with Qin Qian. In this case, the murderer of Qin Qian cannot be the lawless maniac Zhang San. Su Che made some judgments. If it is really his master who did it, then what is the purpose? If you don't understand, simply don't think about it. The last thing is the sword technique of Jingzhe sword technique, which is obtained from an unknown source. However, Zhang San had not even had time to practice before hanging on the wall. Jingzhe sword technique. Interesting, maybe I can try to practice it. Su Che put away 3 things and his gaze fell on the body of the separated family on the ground, frowning. Daoxiang village. The night is getting darker and darker. The moon is like a white jade mirror, casting its radiance over the entire village, surrounded by silence. The trees, bamboo, and crops awaken from drunkenness, no longer making any sound. Frogs and insects also stopped shouting. The dog is asleep, curled up. The bell under the cow's neck also stopped ringing. Under the moonlight, only the delicate flowers are blooming, and the rich fragrance of flowers is fluttering in this unique silence. Su Che buried Zhang San's body in Qin Qian's grave and immediately returned to his grandmother's house. The next morning, he stuffed the cleaned axe into his pants and returned to Qinyun sect. Both tasks were completed by Su Che this time, and his name also made it to the weekly list of sect contributions. For a moment, Xuan's reputation became famous, attracting the attention of many inner disciples. Within 2 days, Xuan spent a total of 100 sect contribution points in exchange for an entry-level flying sword and a storage bag. The axe is too shabby for a cultivator during the foundation building period, and storage bags can hold some items. Qingmu Peak, insects chirping and birds moving, grass growing and warblers flying. His master has not returned yet, which is very advantageous for him. Xuan sat on the treetop and opened the simulator. Name: Xuan, Binding Sect. Qingyin Sect, Sect Level. Junior Sword Sect, Sect Reputation. 11, Sect Territory. Qingyun Prefecture, your sect status. A named disciple of Song Qiming. Your sect contribution points. 1000/infinity, sect incident. The Gu Refining Sect is advancing 1 mile towards the direction of Qingyun Sect. Although the Gu Refining Sect is imposing, it is of no importance to Xuan. After all, the foundation of Qingyun Sect is solid, and staying in Qingyun Sect for cultivation is the best strategy. He only needs to cultivate in a low profile, complete tasks, and constantly improve himself. Even if the Gu Refining Sect hits the Qingyun Sect, there will still be leaders to resist. At this moment, Xuan sitting on the tree seemed to have thought of something. He took out the small blue porcelain vase. The faint green light is particularly noticeable even in daylight. However, during this period, Xuan also discovered a pattern. This blue porcelain vase will produce a pill every once in a while, just like an alchemy furnace. Xuan also went to the library to search for books in this area, but found nothing. As for pills, they can improve cultivation. Xuan swallowed the pill like eating sugar beans, with a faint fragrance flowing into his heart and spleen, straight into his limbs and bones. After spending half a day vomiting, the medicinal effect of the pill gradually dissipated. He clearly felt that his cultivation had improved significantly. Through learning the technique of inner vision, he was surprised to find that his realm had instantly increased from 1 level in the previous construction period to 5 levels in the construction period. This blue porcelain vase is really a big treasure, no wonder Song Qiming never forgets about it. There is no time for cultivation, and 2 days have passed in the blink of an eye. Xuan came to Qinglong Hall again, intending to take on a mission and quietly roll the snowball. I didn't expect to meet Linyu. At this moment, Linyu is confessing to Senior Sister Xiyue, but it is obvious that Senior Sister Xiyue is not interested in this guy who repeatedly pesters her. You go. I won't become a cultivation companion with anyone, Linyu. I advise you to die of this heart. Moreover, you are so outstanding and have countless junior sisters in the sect who like you. You deserve a better candidate. Linyu was once again rejected by Senior Sister Xiyue without any accidents. Xuan was secretly delighted to see this behind the scenes in the distance. Didn't you know how to pretend last time? You also have today. Is Sister Xiyue also worthy of you? Junior brother. I was just looking for you. I didn't expect to see you for a few days, and you've made so much progress. Senior Sister Xiyue noticed Xuan, and a charming smile appeared on her face, which was still full of gloom a moment ago. Xuan scratched his head and awkwardly smiled, flattering. Senior Sister Miaozan, thanks to the foundation building pill that Senior Sister gave last time, otherwise Junior brother wouldn't have built the foundation so easily. The most awkward thing to say at this moment is Linyu. I saw Linyu clenching his fists tightly, as if his nails were about to be embedded in his palm. He really didn't know where he was inferior to Xuan. He can enter the top 5 of the sect's contribution list every week, and is even more talented than his peers. But recently, this kid has been getting too close to his own Xiyue many times. It is clearly a ground beetle coming out of the firewood chopping yard. What does he compare with his prime? In front of Xiyue, he couldn't be angry either. He glanced coldly at Xuan and gritted his teeth before leaving. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Xiyue gifts 10 layers of foundation building. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 9 Xiyue gifts 10 layers of foundation building. In the Qinglong Hall, Su Che and senior sister Xiyue sat opposite each other. Su Che's eyes never moved away from Xiyue's body. I saw senior sister Xiyue's jet black, spring-like long hair fluttering in front of me, coiled in a bun. The jade hairpin was loosely tied, and then a golden step was inserted. The long beaded ornaments trembled and hung down, swaying between her temples. Her eyebrows were not drawn, and her skin was as white and greasy as fat without powder. Her lips were as rosy as red berries, and the coral chains and red jade bracelets displayed nobility between her wrists. The most crimson pearl chains were worn on a white wrist, as white as snow, and as red as fire, stunning and bright. She wore a bright yellow dress, with emerald silk. Wearing a waistband, it showcases its graceful figure and exudes all kinds of charm. Su Che is not a gentleman, and of course, she wouldn't think that senior sister Xiyue would take a liking to her. He couldn't help feeling disappointed when he thought that in the future, senior sister Xiyue would only become someone else's cultivator. Senior sister just said she was looking for junior brother. What's the matter with senior sister? Su Che asked respectfully. Upon hearing this, senior sister Xiyue's face showed a hint of embarrassment as she lowered her head and hesitated to speak. Su Che continued, if senior sister needs any help from junior brother will definitely not hesitate. After a moment of silence, Xiyue finally opened her cherry mouth and looked up. Is there any extra elixir on junior brother's body? Su Che smiled. That's it. Xiyue sighed and said, next month we will have the King Yufeng Moon trial. The first place winner will receive a concentration pill, but the materials for this alchemy need to be prepared by oneself. Senior sister learned alchemy relatively late, and without high-quality materials, it may be difficult to achieve first place. Ningxin Dan. Is it a legendary pill that has a chance to break through the pill formation stage? Xiyue nodded and said, yes, I have been stuck in the foundation building period for some years. If I can obtain the concentrated spirit pill refined by my master this time, my chances of breaking through the pill will be greatly increased. Su Che looked at senior sister Xiyue in front of her. Her eyes were filled with hope. He could see that senior sister Xiyue's love for cultivation was not lower than her own. In the realm of cultivating immortals, even if there is only a 1 in 1,000 chance, they will still strive for opportunities. Even if they die without regret, they are cultivators. It's a small matter, just leave it to junior brother. If senior sister looks like a snow lotus, then at least only 1,000-year-old quality spiritual medicine can match senior sister. Su Che boasted and drew a cake for Xiyue. Upon hearing these words, a blush appeared on Xiyue's face. Since junior brother is so straightforward, senior sister doesn't owe you any favors. I still have 5,000 contribution points in the sect. You can exchange some useful pills for junior brother. I believe that with junior brother's qualifications, it may only take a mere 10 years to smoothly enter the foundation building period. Senior sister Xiyue handed her Sect Jade talisman to Su Che, speaking with great sincerity. Sleeping slot. 5,000 sect contribution points. Su Che's whole body wind thoroughly. By the way, senior sister. Su Che didn't get too happy and asked a question he was more concerned about now. What would happen if a cultivator mistakenly swallowed the waste pill? Abandoned pills are like poisonous pills, and cultivators will not do foolish things that harm themselves. Can senior sister give the refined waste pill to junior brother as a gift? Although senior sister Xiyue was very puzzled, she ultimately agreed to Su Che's request. Sister Xiyue treated him well. If it weren't for sister Xiyue bringing her to Qinyan sect, he would probably have died in Changshou village, and the elixir in the medicine garden is not his either. He's just doing it with ease and seems to have no problems. Now his master Song Qiming has not returned to his sect. Su Che almost goes to the sect's music column every day. If his master dies outside and is killed by righteous people, he will definitely appear on the music column. For this reason, Su Che often kowtowed to the sky, hoping that his master could hang a wall outside. In that case, he won't be thinking about how to kill the other person every day. Su Che looked at the large amount of thriving elixirs in front of her. Although there are many spiritual medicines, Su Che is also aware that there are not many spiritual medicines that have been around for thousands of years. If his master comes back and discovers this, he probably won't have to ponder and will be beaten to death. But Su Che is a person who values credibility. And even if the cows are blown out, he can't go back on his word. And that's 5,000 sect contribution points. With the corners of his mouth raised, Su Che ultimately extended his claws towards the 1,000-year-old elixir. Pulling out the elixir, he ran out of the elixir garden with a thud and thud. I saw Senior Sister Xiyue waiting for him in the distance. Watching Sister Xiyue leave, Su Che held the jade talisman handed to him by Sister Xiyue. In addition, Senior Sister Xiyue also told him some cultivation experiences, which greatly benefited him. Open his Sect Simulator. Su Che plans to check it. Name: Su Che, Binding Sect. Qingyun Sect, Sect Level. Junior Sword Sect, Sect Reputation. 11, Sect Territory. Qingyun Prefecture, your Sect Status. A named disciple of Song Qiming. Your Sect Contribution Points. 1000/infinity. It is obvious that although he received 5,000 sect contribution points from Senior Sister Xiyue, these contribution points cannot be used for the use of the simulator. Su Che suddenly felt a bit disappointed. Qingyun Sect, Treasure Pavilion. This is a place where only disciples of the Qingyun sect are eligible to enter. There are a large number of elixirs, ancient books, treasures, and techniques hidden here. To exchange, you need a large number of sect contribution points. Soon Su Che's gaze fell on those novel pills, a dazzling array of them. Wash Marrow Pill. It has the effect of improving cultivation for cultivators during the Qi refining period. 50 sect contribution points *1 piece. Pulse Protecting Pill. Can prevent loss of cultivation in the event of foundation building failure. 300 sect contribution points *1 piece. Lantian Jade Vein Pill. It has the effect of improving cultivation for cultivators during the foundation period. 500 sect contribution points *1 piece. Su Che was also polite and directly exchanged all the contribution points for the Lantian Jade Pulse Pill. He is currently in the period of foundation construction, and it is difficult to easily improve his cultivation level using ordinary methods. With a large number of pills, I don't believe there is no improvement. At this moment, his gaze fell on a martial arts book. Breath Suppression Technique. Successful cultivation can conceal one's own cultivation, but it will be exposed when a cultivator who surpasses a certain realm uses spiritual power to forcefully peak. Su Che was overjoyed and also exchanged this technique of accumulating interest. Unexpectedly, the old man who guarded the treasure trove wanted to get along well with him, so he directly gave Su Che the retreat technique. After thanking the other party, Su Che left the treasure trove. After 4 consecutive days, Su Che did not leave Qingmu Peak. The cultivation of the technique of restraining breathing is not too difficult. It only took a short day to complete its cultivation. Su Che speculated that the reason for his sudden change in talent should be related to taking the elixir from the blue porcelain bottle. And the Lantian Yumai Dan he exchanged was also refined in the next few days. The realm has advanced by leaps and bounds, directly reaching the 10th level of the foundation construction period. He has a speculation that as long as he is given another chance, he will be able to break through to the stage of pill formation. This rapid improvement was unexpected even for Su Che himself. However, Su Che did not show any pride, but instead chose to use the technique of restraint to suppress his cultivation on the 2nd floor during the foundation period. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Encountering the colorful Holy Communion of Little White again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Encountering the colorful Holy Communion of Little White again in the days when Song Qiming was not at Qingmu Peak, Su Che was the leader of the entire Qingmu Peak, causing various accidents and rummaging through boxes and cabinets. The chair that Song Qiming could only sit in on weekdays has also become Su Che's exclusive, and when bored, he learns from Song Qiming's appearance with a head and face. Various gemstones that he had never seen in his past life were also unloaded by Su Che. Su Che's idea was also very simple. If he left Qingyun sect in the future, he could still sell some money. Anyway, no one is taking care of him, and the entire Qingmu Peak has long been under his control. But this also cannot change Su Che's subconscious of crazy cultivation. He knew very well that his master Song Qiming was like a hungry wolf, and he is in exile, and one day a hungry wolf will always catch up with him, therefore, he must flee crazily. At the beginning of practicing the Jingzhe sword technique, Su Che suffered a lot. He is not like other inner disciples who lack guidance from their masters, so he must be a little tough on himself. In order to practice swordsmanship, Su Che spared no effort in spending a lot of sect contributions and entered the Sword Cave under the leadership of Lu Menjie. Sword Cave. Developed by the founder of the mountain, Master Fengchen Daoist, entering the Sword Cave allows one to comprehend the art of swordsmanship, achieving twice the result with half the effort, making it a desirable place for young disciples to practice. This is also one of the few legacies left by the Wind Trace Taoist in Qingyun sect. But the Sword Cave was too fierce, coupled with Su Che's eagerness for success, progress was slow. After several days of exploration, I only found the surface of the Jingzhe sword technique. The Imperial Sword. His recently exchanged flying sword also broke into two pieces due to frequent overloading and excessive pressure, and was considered scrap. At this point, Su Che's journey to the Sword Cave came to an end. The cafeteria of Qingyun sect not only provides food, but also spiritual energy balls needed for cultivation. The spirit Putuan, as the name suggests, contains a large amount of spiritual energy and is indeed a good place for cultivation. Of course, this is only effective for disciples from the Qi cultivation stage to the foundation construction stage, and the spiritual energy on it is far from enough to satisfy practitioners in the Dan formation stage. After finishing her meal, Su Che found a quiet place to rent. The Jingzhe sword technique still requires comprehension, and the realm needs to be consolidated. But to his surprise, he met an acquaintance who, while contributing some flesh pain to the high sect, rented him a spiritual energy potion for a day. Su Che was overjoyed, and this wave of blood earned him no loss. However, worldly wisdom is still necessary. After dozens of rounds of tugging, Su Che tearfully accepted the invitation from the other party. The last time I exchanged Lantian Yumai Dan flour, it was all contributed by Senior Sister Xiyue's sect. However, even so, there are very few sect contributions left on him. Now he still has 500 sect contribution points left, which happens to be enough to simulate a Sect Simulator once. Open the Sect Simulator and Su Che takes this opportunity to simulate. Successfully using the Sect Simulator, your sect contribution points are reduced by 500 points. You were born in Changshu village, and because of your handsome appearance, you are often secretly loved by the chubby girls at the village entrance. Even the chubby girls have the intention of secretly dating you for life. 6 years old. During the Qingming festival, Changshu village was slaughtered by sword pattern cultivators, who didn't even let go of the old Sao. You were saved by Senior Sister Xiyue of Qingyun sect and escaped a disaster. Since you didn't have a spiritual root, you couldn't cultivate immortality and could only become a disciple of the Chopstick Academy. 10 years old. You were not used to this world, silent, slow to chop firewood, and were beaten up by your fellow chubby classmates. You often hid in bed and cried, which was seen by Senior Sister Xiyue. 13 years old. You swore to become a cultivator and strive even harder. But because you worked too hard chopping firewood and finished 10 people's work, you were jealous and beaten by your fellow disciples hanging from a tree. 17 years old. One day, while taking a walk in the sect, I found a small blue porcelain vase left by an immortal. I absorbed a large amount of rich ancient immortal energy from it and changed my constitution, which made me unable to cultivate immortality. After unremitting efforts, you have successfully elevated your cultivation to the 10th level. During the foundation period your master Song Qiming has returned to the sect, and you have become much more honest. Your master Song Qiming discovered that you had uprooted the millennium-old spiritual medicine that had been nurtured through hard work, and his mood became depressed because you woke up late. You were punished by your master Song Qiming to clean the steps of your sect, because you missed clearing a trace of spiritual energy while clearing the elixir. You were locked down in the valley by your master Song Qiming. You ultimately died in the confinement valley. The simulation is over. You can choose to modify the entry, delete the entry, extract the entry items, and view the entry character attributes. Xiyue couldn't help but smile bitterly in her heart. The small porcelain vase on his body was finally not discovered by his master Song Qiming, but this time it's not bad. He was clearly targeted by Song Qiming. Being directly confined to death is also a bizarre way of dying. Isn't it just pulling out a few wild grasses? As for retaliating against me like this, I am your own disciple. Xiyue felt speechless and looked down upon Song Qiming. Xiyue resolutely chose to extract the item. The Millennium Elixir has been extracted and returned to the storage bag. At this moment, an ethereal voice suddenly came from Xiyue's ear. Xiyue, what are you thinking? Turning to his senses, he looked at the young man in front of him, who was about the same age as him. The young man's sword eyebrows and starry eyes were full of vitality. A bitter smile appeared on Xiyue's face. The young man who invited him to practice was none other than Li Xiaobai, whom he had not seen for a long time. It's nothing, Xiyue shook her head. I didn't expect to see you in such a short time, and your realm has even broken through to the foundation building period. Did you find any treasure? As soon as these words were spoken, Xiyue's heart was taken aback. Obviously, he never expected the other party to suddenly ask such a question. The Sect Simulator is extremely important to Xiyue. He can vaguely feel that the Sect Simulator can deduce the storyline that will happen on his path to cultivation. In this way, Xiyue had two hidden secrets on her body. After a while, Xiyue immediately found an excuse to evade. Perhaps it's because my master left me many pills. Xiyue was also surprised to meet Li Xiaobai here. Li Xiaobai and he were both disciples of the outside gate of the Chopstick Academy. Xiyue's ability to become an inner disciple can only be called a coincidence, but how did Li Xiaobai become an inner disciple? And after Xiyue's observation, Li Xiaobai's progress speed is not slower than him at all, and he has actually reached the 7th floor of the foundation construction period, which is terrifying. By the way, Xiaobai, how did you become an inner disciple? And your realm is even higher than mine. Xiyue changed the topic and asked Li Xiaobai in reverse. Li Xiaobai smiled happily and said, Li Xiaobai, really don't want to be too lucky. I didn't expect that my physique is a rare 7-colored holy body, and I have never been discovered by the sect. Shortly after you left the Chopstick Academy, your master discovered me and took me under his command. End of this chapter.